Welcome back, Blue Devil Nation, to this wonderful Thursday morning. Today is January 7th, and we've officially made it to the end of week 1 of the second semester, at least until 2:30 rolls around. Anyway, besides that, here's a little food for thought. The most dangerous food is wedding cake, but people say that also cake is a lie. Does that apply in this situation? We really don't have time to figure that out now, so please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated. Unless you live under Iraq, you no doubt heard about the...
Iraq. You don't live under Iraq.
Saudi Arabia does. Look it up.
All right, just move on.
So, as I was saying, unless you live in Saudi Arabia, you no doubt heard about the uprising in Washington, D.C. yesterday, during the counting of Electoral College votes. It was a scary time in our nation's history, and thoughts and feelings are all over the place. Today on Ballroom News, Mr. Ball will give us a brief history and a look at the path forward.
Good morning, Marietta. Mr. Ball here. Typically on my show, I try to give you an opportunity to recognize and celebrate a lot of the great things and great students and staff and events that we have at Marietta. And obviously that doesn't change today. We still have awesome things that are going on at our school because we have great people trying to make great things happen for you, and we appreciate that effort. At the same time, I'd be remiss not to talk about the events that happened yesterday during the meeting of the 117th Congress. As you know, or you will learn, the Electoral College cast vote based on the results of a popular vote. The task, according to the Constitution, is that set of numbers ultimately go to the Congress, typically around this time, in order to count and declare a President of the United States and a Vice President of the United States. This is not initially how our country started. This is basically how it evolved once political parties became part of our political landscape. Our first two presidents, George Washington and John Adams, were not subjected to this. This is something that happened, again, once political parties became part of our landscape. Since that time, and as of yesterday, that process, which is a peaceful process, is supposed to go on in Congress. However, that was not necessarily the case, as you witnessed or read or saw yesterday on TV or social media. Throughout history, there's always been contestations to who has been elected president or vice president of the United States. That is not new. The opportunity in that chamber during the joint session of Congress is to voice that if that is ultimately something that a set of constituents or their representative ultimately decides needs to be put into the record. Obviously, this year's election was very different. In all candor, much of what has gone on in the last year and in the last couple of years has been very different. The last time the United States Capitol was attacked was by a foreign power, and that was during the War of 1812. Yesterday, that was one that was domestic, and an opportunity to not allow a democratic process to occur. A process by which is required in our Constitution. Many times we hear people say America is the greatest country there is, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I would agree with that on many different fronts, including the fact that we have the longest living republic, the longest living democratic constitutional republic known to mankind. That does not mean it's perfect. In fact, we talk about making it a more perfect union. What makes it a more perfect union is a ballot. What makes it a more perfect union is having discussions that are tough, especially when you vehemently disagree with somebody, whether it's based on an issue, whether it's based on a political party, whether it's based on the weather. It doesn't matter. The opportunity to disagree is ultimately protected, once again, by the Constitution in the Bill of Rights, which, when the Constitution was written, was not initially part. The Bill of Rights was added afterwards to ensure that states were able to keep their sovereign rights as individual states and not be overpowered by a federal government. So once the Constitution was fully accepted and ratified in 1790, the Bill of Rights was part of that. Yesterday's activity by the Constitution was exactly what it was supposed to be in terms of that vote and counting, and ultimately declaring the necessary or requisite 270 votes to be President of the United States and Vice President of the United States. Unfortunately, there are people who make decisions on their own accord, whether they're influenced or not influenced, to do things that would disrupt that and ultimately hurt, and in this case, kill 4 or 5 different people. My message to you as students, because you are not just a student, you are a member of this country. You are a citizen. Whether you vote or choose to vote or are of the age to vote, which would be 18, you have a say in ultimately what goes on. You have, I would say, even a responsibility to ultimately figure out how you want to go forward. You will not see adults, and many of us do right by you. At the same time, I honestly think your example is the way forward. So today in class, you are going to have the best and brightest teachers trying to walk you through this, walk you through what's happened over the past 6 months or a year or even before that, and what has been even institutionally ingrained in who we are. Be patient, listen, figure out ultimately how you want to learn about these things, ultimately what you want to do to grow as a citizen, and then ultimately as somebody who's going to participate in the election process when you turn 18. Ask tough questions, learn from history, but understand that everything that went on is not always true, everything that went on is not always perfect, and everything that went on is not always right. The right path moving forward is ultimately our individual decisions and collectively as a country trying to figure out ultimately what is the right way forward. And typically that starts with respecting other people, regardless of who they are, where they live, what they look like, who they love, who they vote for, who they pray to. Your choice. As a human being, as a citizen of the country, you guys have that right and the ability to do so. And I'm 100% confident that you as students and us as a staff can get it done. I appreciate you guys being patient today. Appreciate you guys listening to your teachers. Understand that they also don't have all the answers, so help them. Help each other out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Announcements. For anyone who wants to, or is interested in trying out for upcoming spring sports such as baseball, lacrosse, track, tennis, or golf, we'll be holding all tryouts next week. On the left is a QR code which will lead you to a Google form that you can fill out, which will give you the coaches your name and information necessary to try out. We'll leave this up for a bit so you can pull out your phones and scan it. Are you interested in winning scholarships? How about celebrating African American playwrights? Blue Devil Theater is putting together a group of students to participate in the 2021 August Wilson Monologue Competition in Atlanta. The competition is open to all 9th through 12th grade students. This year's competition is free and virtual. For more information on how you can enter, please scan the QR code to sign up for the information meeting this Friday. I hope to see you there. Considering this is our first week back from break, announcements are of course limited. If you have any announcements that you would like to see on the show, our email submissions are open. Just send us your information at bluedevilnews.com and we will try to get your word out, spread about your event. With all that being said, we conclude another episode of Good Morning Marietta. From Blue Devil News, I'm Coral Campo, and I hope you all have a good morning, Marietta.